So we at Norada, we've built a solution that monitors the location of people and equipment as they move around both indoors and outdoors. So our hardware and our network partners, they do a fabulous job of collecting the data, making that data accessible to us, the location data, and then we ingest that data, we visualize it, we provide alarming to ultimately realize the value from digitization, and that is anywhere from operational efficiency all the way through to safety improvements. So now let's jump into this demo. I'm going to start by introducing you to the bones of the system just to get our bearings, and then most importantly dig into a couple of those high value use cases. So our app, it is available to managers, supervisors, field staff, really anyone who needs access to this type of information. And it is available from desktop, tablet, phone, and from any location. So you can view multiple campuses, buildings, sites, all from within a single account. Now I'm going to start off by jumping into this. I call it an area card. So this is a card that gives you an overview of all of the different buildings or all of the different work sites within your given region, put it that way. So in this case, we've got a lakeshore building, a Farron building, a couple other ones. Now on this column here, we see all of the different tags. And so this represents people or equipment that are carrying around those tags. Now let's say that I want to find someone or something specific. I can start typing in their name. We can see, okay, Ethan Jackson is located within the lakeshore building. You may notice that there are some numbers on these buildings. That represents the number of tags that are within that building. You'll also notice that there are some dots moving around. These are people or equipment that are moving around outside of a building. So it could be the general work area. So you can see exactly where they are within the site. Now, that's the overview of all of the different buildings. Now let's take a closer look within a specific building. So right off the bat, you'll see this floor plan here. We will grab the client's floor plan from them. If it's a general building like this, of course, it will look something like this. We can, of course, grab plans from an above ground mine, a below ground mine. Perhaps it's just a general outdoor area. We can grab a satellite image if that would be more helpful. So anyways, we've got, you can see there's people moving around inside of the building. Now again, let's find someone specific. You may have noticed that we were on the second floor. We automatically jumped to the first floor where Ethan Jackson is located. Now you also may notice that there is this gray bar here, and so this represents data that we're getting from an environmental sensor. In this case, they are providing us with temperature, humidity, and the air quality reading for this room. Now let's jump back up to the second floor here. Here's Nora. So this represents her recent movements. We've connected a line there. It might give you a bit of an intent as to where she's off to next. And of course it shows where the areas that she's covered recently. Tapping on Allison's tag here, we can generate a heat map. So this shares with us where she's spending her time, where she's spending more time than others, and of course, also importantly, where she's not spending any time. So just to cover the usual suspects here, I'm going to point out that our system has a fairly robust alerting system to monitor and alert on pretty much anything, from abnormal air quality readings to body temperature, as well as location-based alarming. And that is entering, exiting, as well as dwelling and being absent from a given area. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, Ethan Jackson here, he entered the pharmacy. It's a restricted area, and so I want to keep tabs on who's entering that area. So when he enters into that area, you're going to see a red notification bar at the bottom here. We'll have a badge here to let you know there's a new notification here. We will also send an email and a notification to your phone as well. So how are people using this? How are our clients using this to realize the value of the system in their site? So just one example, one of the gold mining teams that we're working with, they have these alarms, these location-based alarms set up if anyone enters into the vicinity while blasting is occurring. We have another team that is a uranium mining client, and they have this set up to send an alarm if anyone enters into the vicinity of the conveyor belt when it's running. In their case, uranium is on this conveyor belt. When the conveyor belt begins, it agitates the uranium, sending radiation into the air. So, of course, creating this hazardous area around it. Now, I will point out that this geofencing is extremely simple and quick to create. You could create a geofence and an alarm within probably 30 seconds. So it's quite useful if all of a sudden a new hazard appears, perhaps a piece of equipment breaks down, or there's some sort of issue with infrastructure and a new or temporary hazard pops up. You can quickly understand if anyone's going to or enters into that area. So now we've got the bones of the system down. Let's move on to a couple of those high-value use cases. So the first one that I'm going to share is around emergency notification. And so that is an emergency happens and you need to notify all of your staff of the incident, and that they need to move towards a refuge station. So we can filter the tags. In this case, I've got these groups of tags. So these are grouped by department. So I can select which groups I want to notify or just notify all of them. Now, in the case of a LoRaWAN deployment, we can alert the selected tags. So the tags that these employees are carrying around, it has an LED light within them that will start flashing. It has an alarm that will start ringing. Now, in the case of a mesh implementation, the anchors that are placed on the wall also have that LED and that alarm. And so again, with a single tap of a button, we can begin that alarm. Now we'll watch as the tags move towards their muster station. But we've got a step 2, I guess you could call it, of this. It's a very quick at-a-glance account for where your tags are. So this is the occupancy card. Now these columns, it represents the number of tags within a given area or a group of areas. So imagine that the first column read the number of tags underground in a mine setting, for example. So we've got 300 tags, for example, within an underground setting. The second column here could represent refuge stations. So you might have 20 different refuge stations throughout the site. You don't really care which one they're in. You just want to know how many people are in a refuge station. So again, let's say there's 300 people underground in a mine in one of those emergency settings. You would then want to make sure that you're seeing 300 tags within a refuge station. And if there is a discrepancy, of course, you can jump back to the map and locate where they're at. But this occupancy card is just a great at-a-glance understanding of where everyone is, if everyone has been accounted for. You may notice that there's no refresh button and these levels were updating automatically. So there's no manual refresh. Everything just comes in through live data. Now, the second use case that I want to share with you is it's a feature that I call the playback history feature. So what you're seeing right now is the live or the current data. Now this playback history feature, it allows you to select a date and an hour in the past. So we're doing about 2 hours ago, and we can go ahead and play it. Now we can see exactly where all of the tags were at that given point in time. We can also see what the sensor reading was at that point in time as well. So of course you can pause, you can replay. We speed this up so that you are efficiently watching 1 hour's worth of history over the course of 1 minute. So how are people using this? Where are they benefiting from this? Investigation and security is obviously what comes to mind. So one of our teams that we're working with, they shared that they spend between $50,000 to $100,000 or more just purely on the investigating some of their more severe incidents that happen on their sites. And the reason for that high expense is they don't know who to talk to provide an eyewitness statement, and so they end up burning resources talking to everyone, and of course they're going to get some differing points of view, and so it takes a lot of resources to try and piece that together and understand some of those discrepancies. And so with this playback feature, they can now see who was there, who wasn't there, who perhaps had the most reliable point of view, perhaps who had a differing vantage point that may have been able to see something slightly different, and of course that would make up for the discrepancies there. So it's just a feature that will really that has really streamlined their investigation experience. So the third use case that I want to share with you is a use case we're all familiar with. It's a button to request help, or a lone worker type incident. So your employee needs some help for whatever reason. They can go ahead and tap on the button that is on their tag, and then we will receive a notification here. So you see Allison Ritter has pressed that help button. Again, we have it up here. We'll also send you an email and a notification to your phone. So we can see exactly, okay, where is Allison located right now? Maybe I see that there is another staff member that's right around the corner. I can either radio to that staff member, or if they have their phone on them, we can assign this notification to them, and they will receive an email and a phone notification as well. So we've gone ahead and helped Allison out. So Allison can reset that alarm by either tapping on the button on her tag, or we can complete it from within the app. So it's just a very fast, quick way of documenting if someone needs help, sending out the appropriate alarms, documenting the whole way through with very little manual interaction required. Now that's going to be about 90% of the time. This is going to be the workflow that you're going to use. Now in the odd case where there is some sort of further documentation or action required, in the background we do have a fairly robust ticketing system. And so anytime that one of these alarms is triggered, we automatically create a ticket where, of course, if there is a need for further documentation, you can add notes, add follow-ups, tasks, assign them to different users, add photos, anything like that to really make it a seamless workflow and ensure that all documentation was completed. Now, moving on to another use case here. This is the time captured report. And so this is a report that I like to tuck into all of my demos because everyone can quickly relate to the benefits provided here in a wide variety of use cases. So essentially this report tells me how much time we have collectively invested in a given area, or where my employees or equipment are spending their time. So this add a view dashboard card just shares with me how much time we are spending in a couple of these key areas, the dining rooms, for example, in this case. Now let's expand this, and I can sort it by either tag or by zone. So by tag represents how much time or where Nora Fisher in this example is spending her time. Now we can set the date parameters. During the course of this period, I can see that she has spent a total of 7 minutes in this suite. Now, if I want more detail into, when is she spending that time in that given area, we can enable this detail switch. And so this is a line-by-line report that shows me exactly what time she entered, what time she exited this medical zone, and how much time did she spend in that zone. And so you're really tracking the movement all throughout the day here. And so this is by tag. You can again do the same thing by zone. And so let's say you have a restricted area, you want to understand exactly who is entering into that area, at what time, how long they're spending in that given area. So this is a lot of information. How are people making use of this? So it's answered a number of different questions for our clients. Anything from, are staff spending more time in a given zone than you want or know of, and you need to provide evidence to support that? Or cost of service. How much time have we invested working in a given area? Or are there problem areas that are requiring more attention than as expected? A uranium mine of ours, they are using this to measure radiation exposure levels. And so they know that there's different areas that have different amounts of radiation. So how much time are they spending in those given areas? And that is really required for documentation purposes. They're audited on these records. Another use case is, how much time are we actually spending queuing for an elevator and being transported across some of these sites? Some of these sites, it could take an hour to get across, and that's important information to understand. Is there a way that we can make this more efficient? Equipment utilization is another one. Is there a department that's hoarding equipment, or is the existing equipment being properly utilized before we purchase more? Finally, are the contracted staff actually attending to jobs as expected or as they are billing you? So that concludes my demo here, but I just want to summarize the benefits here. And that is, unlike tracking systems, the value here is not about micromanaging people. It's about enabling them. It's about achieving better outcomes with the resources that you have. And most importantly, it's about protecting them. So our solution helps teams respond to needs or emergencies faster. It detects issues before escalating, reduces errors, reduces low-value work like documenting and looking for things, and ultimately, better data informs better decisions.